Okay, we are finally finished with complex rational expressions. So we are on to solving rational equations. Okay? I'm making a big deal of that because some of you are going to like this. And you're going to try to do it with everything. And that is not allowed. You can only do this with equations, not expressions. So only when there's an equal sign. Okay, so here are your steps. So let's take those slow and let you write them down. Step number 1 is think, not do, just think, what your common denominator of the whole problem would be. So you look at every fraction. If you were going to make them all common denominators, what would your common denominator be? Then step number 2, you're going to multiply each term by the whole common denominator. So you're not making common denominators, you're multiplying the whole problem by the common denominator. But you're not actually going to multiply. You're going to cancel with the denominator before you actually multiply. Okay, and I'll show you when we get to the example. Once you do this, this is called clearing the denominators. There's not going to be any more denominators if you've made the correct common denominator. So at that point, we're just going to have a normal equation that we know how to solve. So then we're just going to solve for the variable. And last but not least, we're going to check for extraneous solutions. Where do those come from? Those restrictions we spent so much time learning about when we were doing expressions. All right, here we go. So we're going to start with this example. We have 2/3 minus 2 over x equals 4 over x. So I look at the whole problem, step number 1, and think about what my common denominator would be. Well, if I was going to make a common denominator for all 3 of these, it would be 3x. This one has a 3, this one has an x, this one has an x. But I don't need 2 x's because I just already have only 1. All right, so here we go. So once we finish step number 2, then we're literally going to take 3x and multiply it by each term of this problem. But again, before we actually multiply, we're going to cancel with the denominator. So those 3's will cancel. So we just have 2 times x, which is 2x. Here, x's will cancel. 2 times 3, 6. Don't forget your minus sign. Then over here, x's cancel. 4 times 3 is 12. And yippee, look at that nice easy problem. That's like back to basic algebra 1 there. So we add our 6, 2x equals 18, x equals 9. So that's step number 3, solving for x. Then last step is to check for extraneous solutions. The way you do that is you look back up here and you say, okay, what are my restrictions? Well, my restriction here is that x cannot equal 0. Well, my x is not 0, so I'm good. If this said x equals 0, x isn't allowed to be 0. So we would have to say that was no solution if that was the case. But that's not the case here. So we're good to go. X equals 9 is our solution. Now, for those of you who like to check your work, remember, whenever you're solving, you can always just plug that back in. Oops, that's a 2. And see if it makes the equation true. So in order to do that, you would say, okay, in order to subtract fractions, I have to have common denominators. So this would become 6/9. 6/9 minus 2/9 is 4/9. So we're good there. All right, that was a pretty easy one. Let's move up a little bit. All right, so now we have polynomials on the bottom. So we have 5 over x minus 3 plus 2 over x plus 4 equals 5 over x squared plus x minus 12. To just look at these, it's hard to see what the common denominator would be. So go ahead and factor this, guys, so that you can see what you're doing better. Well, that factors into x plus 4, x minus 3. Boy, that was nice of me. All right, so then now it's pretty easy to see that our common denominator is just going to be x plus 4, x minus 3. So we put that next to each problem. X plus 4, x minus 3, x plus 4, x minus 3. Oops. X plus 4, x minus 3. But again, before I multiply, I cancel with my denominator. Okay? Then I have to multiply what's left. So if you're a sloppy person who tends to make mistakes, write it down first so you can see what you're doing. So this is what we have here. right? After we cancel, this is what we have left. So then, again, this is just a linear equation. Distribute my 5, 5x plus 20. Distribute my 2, 2x minus 6. Bring down my 5. Combine my like terms, 5x and 2x make 7x. 20 minus 6 is 14. Now we're back to a really easy problem. Subtract 14, subtract 14. 7x equals negative 9. Divide by 7, x equals negative 9/7. Look at your restrictions. My restrictions would be positive 3 and negative 4. That's not either one of those, so that's a fine answer. I'm not going to plug that back in right now because that's cruel and unusual punishment. But if you wanted to, you could. All right. Let's talk about this guy. So we need to, this is a 1 underneath here, so that's good. When we look at what we're going to do as a common denominator down here, these are really, really similar. And if you remember when we were doing problems earlier in the unit, we figured out that if we had x minus y over y minus x, we could cancel those, but we had to cancel them to a negative 1. Well, we can use that same idea to make this problem easier so that our common denominator doesn't have to be so ugly. Plus, it's driving some of you crazy that says 1 minus x anyway. So let's do that. Let's switch that to x minus 1. But if we do that, we've changed it by a factor of negative 1. So what we do is we just go up here and we make that a plus. So we've taken that negative 1 out of the denominator and kind of put it into the numerator, thereby making our common denominator much prettier. So now our common denominator is just x minus 1. So we put x minus 1 next to each of them. And then we cancel with our denominators. So those two cancel, this one doesn't. So I have 2 parentheses x minus 1 plus 3x equals 8. And then I just need to solve. So 2x minus 2 plus 3x equals 8. 5x minus 2 equals 8. 5x equals 10. X equals 2. My restriction here would just be positive 1. So that's an okay answer. Okay, I have 3 for you to try today. Boy, I'm stressing you out. There's one easy one like the one I just showed you, so pay attention to the trick, and then one that's a little bit more difficult. This is a minus. I screwed up again. All right, and down here at the bottom are your answers. But again, just writing down the problem and the answer does not count as doing your problems. Do them.